Life is a river of experiences, emotions, and challenges. Some days are calm and serene, while others are turbulent and stormy. The way we navigate this river determines the quality of our journey. The human mind is designed to react instantly to stimuli, but not all reactions serve our growth or happiness. Most of the suffering we experience is not caused by the events themselves, but by our responses to them. Anger, resentment, fear, jealousy, and frustration can erupt like uncontrolled fires, leaving destruction in their wake. Yet there is a power greater than the impulse to react, a power that lies in stillness, awareness, and choice. The power of not reacting is not about suppressing feelings. It is about mastering them. It is about creating space between stimulus and response so that our actions are deliberate, thoughtful, and aligned with our highest self. Imagine standing in the middle of a storm, watching the winds swirl around you without being swept away. Imagine facing criticism with clarity and calmness instead of defensiveness. Imagine navigating conflict with patience, wisdom, and inner strength. These are not fantasies, but achievable states of being. They are cultivated through awareness, reflection, and practice. Every moment of restraint strengthens your inner core. Every pause you take builds resilience. Every choice you make not to react transforms your life. Throughout this book, we will explore the nature of emotions, how they arise, why they drive us, and how we can respond with intelligence and grace. We will walk through stories of ordinary people who discovered extraordinary strength when they chose not to react. We will uncover techniques rooted in mindfulness, self-awareness, reflection, and empathy that allow you to harness your emotions rather than being controlled by them. You will learn that emotional control is not denial, but empowerment, that true strength is expressed through calmness, and that the greatest victories are often won quietly within. This is an invitation to embark on a journey inward, to uncover the quiet power that resides in stillness and self-mastery. The chapters ahead will guide you through understanding your emotions, pausing before acting, transforming conflict into growth, and cultivating relationships built on wisdom and calmness. The power of not reacting is a life skill that enriches every aspect of existence. It turns obstacles into opportunities, setbacks into lessons, and ordinary moments into profound experiences. As you read these pages, remember that mastery of emotions is a practice, not a destination. Each step you take in observing yourself in challenging moments is a victory. Each choice to pause instead of react builds a stronger, resilient, compassionate self. Let this book be your companion as you awaken the power within to live with clarity, freedom, and emotional strength. Chapter 1. Understanding the Fire Within. Emotions are the fire within us. They are the energy that moves through our bodies and minds, shaping the way we think, act, and relate to the world. Around this fire swirl feelings of joy, anger, fear, sadness, love, and longing. They can be gentle and warming, like a hearth in the night, or wild and consuming, like a blaze in a forest. Understanding these flames is the first step toward mastering them. For many people, emotions feel like uncontrollable forces that push and pull them without warning. But the truth is that emotions are messengers. They carry information about our needs, desires, fears, and values. They are not enemies to be defeated, but guides to be understood. Consider a man named Arun, who worked tirelessly in a high-pressure office. He found himself snapping at his colleagues for minor mistakes. His anger would flare over emails that were delayed or reports that were slightly inaccurate. He believed that his reactions were justified. But one evening, after another conflict, he paused and reflected. He asked himself why these small mistakes provoked such intense emotions.
He realized that it was not about the mistakes at all. It was about his fear of failure, his desire for control, and his worry that he would be judged harshly by his superiors. This realization changed everything. He saw that the anger was a signal pointing to his own inner vulnerabilities, and not a reflection of the external world. Reacting impulsively was no longer necessary because he understood what the fire was trying to tell him.
Emotions are like signals on a dashboard. They alert us to what matters to us. They indicate what we value and what we fear. When we ignore them, we may miss critical information. When we overreact, we give the signal too much power and allow it to dictate our actions. The key is to observe the fire without letting it burn uncontrollably. Imagine watching flames flicker in a fireplace. You notice the heat, the movement, and the light without leaping into the fire. You respect the fire without becoming it. This is how understanding emotions works. You acknowledge the feeling, you explore its origin, and you decide how to respond rather than letting the emotion dictate your behavior. A young woman named Sarah struggled with sadness after a difficult breakup. She found herself crying at unexpected moments and feeling overwhelmed by grief. Her friends advised her to distract herself or suppress her feelings, but she chose a different path. She began to journal her emotions, noting what triggered the sadness and how her body responded. She discovered that her grief was not only about the loss of a relationship, but also about the loss of her sense of self and security. The fire within her was not a destructive force, but a messenger, pointing to areas that required healing. Once she understood this, she could approach her sadness with compassion rather than resistance. She allowed herself to feel without being consumed and gradually found the strength to move forward with clarity. Emotions are not just individual experiences. They are universal threads connecting all human beings. Across cultures and generations, people have struggled with anger, jealousy, fear, and love. The difference between those who suffer from their emotions and those who thrive is not the absence of emotion, but the ability to understand it. Imagine a leader facing criticism from a team member. She feels irritation rising in her chest. She could react defensively and escalate the conflict, or she could observe the irritation like a wave rising and falling. She could ask herself what this emotion signals about her own insecurities or biases. By understanding the fire within, she can respond with insight and wisdom, transforming a potentially destructive situation into an opportunity for growth. Understanding emotions requires patience and curiosity. It requires stepping back from the immediacy of feeling and asking, what is this trying to tell me? Why is this reaction arising? Why do I feel this way? This process transforms the mind from a reactive instrument to a conscious observer. It allows a person to see patterns of behavior that repeat unconsciously and to make choices that align with their values rather than with fleeting impulses. The fire within is not to be feared. It is to be studied and respected. Each emotion carries a lesson. Each impulse contains wisdom waiting to be discovered. The practice of understanding emotions is like tending to a fire. You feed it with attention, not with blind reaction. You stoke it with awareness and allow it to illuminate your inner world. The more you engage with this practice, the more your responses become deliberate and empowered, rather than automatic and destructive. Arun, Sara, and the leader are examples of what is possible when one begins to understand the fire within. When you start observing your emotions, you uncover a map of your inner world. You see what matters most to you. You recognize the triggers that lead to unnecessary suffering. You gain insight into the fears, desires, and values that drive your behavior. This understanding is the foundation for the power of not reacting. Once you know the source of the fire, you can decide how to respond. You are no longer at the mercy of emotional impulses. You are the observer, the guide, and the master of the energy that moves within. Understanding the fire within is not a one-time achievement. It is a lifelong practice. Each day presents new triggers, new situations, and new opportunities to observe and learn. The more you engage with your emotions with honesty and courage, the more resilient you become, the more capable you are of navigating life with calmness, clarity, and confidence. The fire that once threatened to consume you becomes a source of illumination, warmth, and strength. Chapter 2: The Pause That Changes Everything. Life moves fast, and in the rush of daily existence, it is easy to react without thinking, to let impulses dictate actions, and to give away power to fleeting emotions. But there is a quiet strength in pausing, in the space between stimulus and response. This pause is not emptiness, it is the doorway to clarity, freedom, and control. It is the moment when choice emerges, and when the fire within can be guided rather than unleashed. Consider the story of Maya, a teacher in a bustling school. She often felt irritation when students interrupted her lessons or failed to follow instructions. Her instinct was to scold, raise her voice, or demand immediate compliance. One day, after an especially stressful morning, she caught herself rising in anger at a student who had dropped a tray of art supplies. She stopped. She breathed. She noticed the surge of frustration as if observing it from a distance. Instead of reacting, she calmly asked the student to pick up the supplies while offering assistance. The classroom atmosphere shifted. The student felt supported, and the lesson continued without chaos. Maya realized that the pause had transformed potential conflict into a moment of connection and learning. The power of pausing lies in the space it creates. A pause allows you to separate the event from the reaction. It allows reflection before action. It allows the mind to observe the emotion without being swept away by it. When a driver cuts you off in traffic, it is easy to honk, curse, or speed ahead, fueled by anger. But imagine taking a breath, noticing your pulse, and choosing to respond calmly. The incident remains the same, but your experience is entirely different. The pause turns what could have been an explosion into a measured response. It turns powerlessness into empowerment. John, a young professional, found himself in frequent arguments with his colleagues. Over emails, phone calls, and meetings, he would feel irritation and defensiveness rising. He realized that his reactions often escalated tensions rather than resolving them. He decided to experiment with the pause. Whenever he felt anger, he counted silently to 5, observed his breath, and acknowledged the emotion without judgment. This simple act changed everything. By the time he responded, he was calmer, clearer, and able to communicate with insight rather than reaction. His relationships at work improved, and he discovered a new sense of control over his professional life. The pause is also a tool for self-discovery. Emotions often reveal unmet needs, desires, or fears. When we pause, we create the opportunity to understand what the emotion is signaling, rather than just expressing it impulsively. A mother who feels frustration at her child for not completing homework can pause and ask herself why she feels this way. Is it about the homework or her own anxiety about expectations? The pause allows insight and a response that is nurturing rather than reactive. Over time, the pause becomes a habit, and the mind learns to respond rather than react automatically. In the world of high-stakes decisions, leaders have discovered the value of the pause. A CEO facing criticism from investors can feel the urge to justify, defend, or argue immediately. Instead, they take a breath, consider the implications, reflect on the facts, and respond with composed intelligence. Their words carry weight not because of emotion, but because of presence. The pause creates authority, confidence, and trust.
It transforms potential chaos into constructive dialogue. The pause is not weakness, it is a deliberate act of strength. A martial artist does not rush into an attack. They wait, they observe, they sense the opponent before acting. In the same way, pausing before responding to emotion allows you to sense the situation, to assess the internal fire, and to choose the response that aligns with your values and desired outcomes. It is a practice of mastery over self and circumstance.
Every day presents opportunities to practice the pause. A disagreement with a friend, a misunderstanding with a partner, a critique at work. All these moments can be met with immediate reaction or with mindful pause. The choice is yours. By choosing the pause, you reclaim the power that reactions surrender. You gain freedom from the tyranny of emotions and the ability to navigate life with calmness and wisdom. The stories of Maya, John, and countless others demonstrate that the pause is transformative. It turns ordinary moments into powerful opportunities for growth. It shifts the narrative from chaos to clarity, from conflict to understanding, from reaction to choice. The pause is the gateway to emotional mastery and the cornerstone of not reacting. It is a simple practice, yet one of the most profound skills you can cultivate. As you read this chapter, reflect on the moments in your own life when impulsive reactions have led to regret or conflict. Imagine how a pause could have changed the outcome. The more you practice noticing the rise of emotion and pausing before responding, the more natural it becomes. Each pause strengthens your inner control. Each pause teaches patience. Each pause builds resilience. The pause is a superpower accessible to anyone willing to observe, breathe, and choose. Every emotion that rises within you carries a message, but it does not carry authority. Emotions are signals, not commands. They are messengers that deliver information about your inner world, yet they do not have the right to control your behavior unless you hand them that power. Many people live as if every feeling must be obeyed. If anger appears, they must shout. If jealousy surfaces, they must accuse. If fear whispers, they must retreat. But true strength begins when you understand that a signal is simply information. It is not an order. Imagine a fire alarm ringing in a building. The alarm is loud, urgent, and impossible to ignore. Yet the alarm itself is not the fire. It is only an alert that something requires attention. If you panic and run blindly, you may cause more harm. If you ignore it completely, you may miss real danger. The wise response is to pause, assess, and act appropriately. Emotions function in the same way. Anger alerts you to perceived injustice. Fear alerts you to possible threat. Sadness alerts you to loss. Joy alerts you to alignment and fulfillment. Each emotion is data, meant to guide awareness, not dictate reaction. Consider Daniel, a young entrepreneur who pitched his idea to investors. During the presentation, one investor questioned his strategy in a sharp and critical tone. Daniel felt anger surge through his body. His chest tightened, his face warmed, and his mind prepared arguments to defend himself. In the past, he would have reacted instantly, interrupting and challenging the criticism. But this time, he recognized that anger was only a signal. The signal told him that he felt attacked and perhaps insecure. Instead of reacting, he listened carefully to the feedback. He realized that beneath the harsh tone was valuable insight that could strengthen his proposal. By treating anger as information rather than command, he transformed a moment of tension into an opportunity for growth. Emotions become dangerous only when they are mistaken for instructions. A woman named Lila felt jealousy whenever her friend achieved success. She would feel bitterness and distance herself, creating silent competition in her heart. One day, she decided to examine the jealousy instead of obeying it. She asked herself what this feeling revealed.
The answer surprised her. The jealousy signaled her own unfulfilled ambitions and dreams. It was not about her friend at all. It was about her desire to achieve more in her own life. Once she understood the signal, she used it as motivation to pursue her goals, rather than letting it damage her friendship. The same emotion that once created division became fuel for personal progress. Fear is another powerful signal that many mistake for command. Fear often shouts, "Stop, do not try, stay small, stay safe." Yet fear does not always indicate real danger. Sometimes it indicates growth and expansion. A public speaker named Marcus experienced intense fear before stepping onto the stage. His heart raced, his hands trembled, and his thoughts urged him to cancel the event. If he obeyed the command of fear, he would retreat and remain limited. Instead, he reframed fear as a signal that he was stepping outside his comfort zone. He understood that growth often feels uncomfortable. He walked onto the stage despite the fear and delivered a powerful message. The applause that followed confirmed that fear had been a guide, not a barrier.
Learning to see emotions as signals requires awareness and discipline. It requires stepping back from the intensity of the feeling and asking what it reveals. When sadness appears, instead of drowning in it, you can ask what loss or disappointment needs acknowledgement. When frustration arises, instead of lashing out, you can ask what expectation has not been met. This questioning transforms emotional experience into self-discovery. It turns reaction into reflection. A father named Amir often felt frustration when his teenage son challenged his authority. He would react with strictness, raising his voice and demanding obedience. This only widened the gap between them. One evening, after another argument, Amir paused and reflected on his frustration. He realized that the emotions signaled fear. Fear that he was losing connection. Fear that his guidance was no longer valued. Instead of commanding control, he chose conversation. He shared his concerns openly and listened to his son's perspective. The relationship shifted from conflict to understanding, all because he treated frustration as a signal rather than a command. Emotions gain control when they're believed without examination. The mind creates stories around feelings and convinces us that immediate action is necessary. But space between feeling and action reveals choice. When you feel insulted, you can observe the sting without attacking back. When you feel overlooked, you can communicate calmly instead of withdrawing. When you feel anxious, you can breathe and assess reality rather than imagining catastrophe. Each moment of observation weakens the automatic link between emotion and reaction. There's profound freedom in recognizing that you are not your emotions. You are the awareness observing them. You are the consciousness that notices anger, fear, joy, or sadness passing through like weather patterns in the sky. The sky is not harmed by the storm. It remains vast and steady beyond the clouds. In the same way, your core self remains stable beyond the waves of emotion. The more you identify with the observer rather than the emotion, the more control you gain over your responses. Emotional mastery does not mean becoming cold or detached. It means engaging with feelings intelligently. It means allowing yourself to feel deeply while choosing actions wisely. It means respecting the message without surrendering authority. When emotions are understood as signals, they become allies, guiding you toward growth, healing, and alignment. Daniel improved his business. Leela pursued her dreams. Marcus conquered his fear. Amir rebuilt his relationship. Each story illustrates the same truth. The emotion was never the enemy. The automatic obedience to it was the real challenge. Once the signal was interpreted correctly, the path forward became clear.
As you move through your own life, begin to notice the signals within you. When anger flares, ask, what boundary feels crossed? When jealousy whispers, ask, what desire seeks expression? When fear rises, ask whether the danger is real or imagined. Let curiosity replace impulsiveness. Let awareness replace reaction. Over time, you will discover that emotions lose their power to control and gain power to inform. The power of not reacting grows stronger when you understand this principle. Emotions are signals, not commands. They knock on the door of your awareness, but you decide whether to open that door with wisdom or with impulse. In that decision lies your freedom. In that awareness lies your strength.
Chapter 4. Mindfulness in Every Breath. There is a quiet space within you that remains untouched by chaos, noise, and emotional storms. This space is awareness, and the doorway to it is your breath. Mindfulness is the practice of returning to this space again and again until it becomes your natural home. It is the art of observing thoughts, emotions, and sensations without judgment, without resistance, and without immediate reaction. When you anchor yourself in mindfulness, you discover that emotions may rise like waves, yet you do not have to drown in them. Breath is constant from the moment you enter this world until the moment you leave it. It flows in and out without demand, without condition, and without effort. Yet most people move through life barely noticing it. The breath is powerful because it connects the body and the mind. When anger tightens the chest, the breath becomes shallow. When fear grips the stomach, the breath becomes rapid. When sadness weighs heavily, the breath becomes slow and heavy. By becoming aware of your breathing, you become aware of your emotional state, and in that awareness, you gain influence over it. Consider Elena, a nurse working in a busy hospital. Emergency alarms ringing, patients in pain, families anxious, and doctors rushing created an environment of constant pressure. Elena often felt overwhelmed by stress and irritation, especially during long shifts. One day, after reacting sharply to a colleague, she realized that she needed a different approach. She began practicing mindful breathing. Before entering each patient room, she paused for a few seconds, inhaled deeply, and exhaled slowly. She noticed the tension in her shoulders and allowed it to soften. She observed her emotions without labeling them good or bad. Over time, her reactions decreased. She became calmer, more focused, and more compassionate. Her environment remained intense, but her inner world transformed because she chose mindfulness in every breath. Mindfulness does not require isolation on a mountain or hours of silence. It can be practiced in the middle of conversation, in the noise of traffic, in the tension of disagreement. When someone criticizes you, instead of reacting instantly, you can bring attention to your breath. Feel the air entering your lungs. Feel the rise and fall of your chest. Notice the emotion forming without judging it. This simple act creates space. It slows the automatic response and allows conscious choice. The breath becomes an anchor, keeping you steady while the storm passes. A university student named Ravi struggled with anxiety before exams. His thoughts would spiral into fear of failure and disappointment. His heart would race, and his mind would imagine worst-case scenarios. He learned a simple practice of mindfulness. Each time anxiety arose, he sat quietly, closed his eyes, and counted his breaths from 1 to 10. If his mind wandered, he gently returned to the breath without frustration. Within weeks, he noticed change. The anxiety still appeared, but it no longer controlled him. He could observe it like a passing cloud and continue studying with clarity. Mindfulness did not remove the challenge, but it removed the suffering created by uncontrolled reaction. Mindfulness also deepens relationships. When you listen mindfully, you are fully present, rather than preparing your response while the other person speaks. A mother practicing mindfulness while speaking with her teenage daughter noticed her own urge to interrupt and correct. Instead, she breathed and listened completely. Her daughter felt heard, valued, and understood. The conversation became more open and honest. The practice of mindful presence transformed not only her internal state, but the quality of connection. The beauty of mindfulness lies in its simplicity. It asks nothing more than awareness of the present moment without judgment. Thoughts may arise, emotions may surface, sensations may shift, yet you remain the observer, witnessing them all. This awareness weakens the habit of reacting automatically because you see the process unfolding in real time. You notice anger building, you notice impatience rising, you notice fear whispering, and because you notice, you can choose. There was a manager named Thomas who often felt disrespected during meetings. When employees challenged his ideas, he would interrupt or assert authority sharply. After learning about mindfulness, he decided to experiment. During meetings, he focused on maintaining steady breathing and observing his reactions internally. When disagreement occurred, he noticed heat in his face and tension in his jaw. Instead of reacting, he breathed through it and allowed others to finish speaking. The outcome surprised him. His team became more collaborative and creative because they felt safe expressing opinions. Thomas discovered that mindfulness strengthened his leadership more than dominance ever could. Mindfulness in every breath is not about perfection, it is about practice. There will be moments when you forget, when emotion overtakes awareness and reaction happens instantly. In those moments, do not judge yourself. Instead, notice what occurred, reflect gently, and recommit to awareness. The path of emotional mastery is built through consistent attention, not sudden transformation. Each breath is an opportunity. Each inhale invites clarity. Each exhale releases tension. When you practice mindfulness, you train your mind to remain steady amidst change. You cultivate patience, compassion, and insight. You begin to see that emotions are temporary visitors, not permanent rulers. The more you anchor yourself in the present moment, the less power emotions have to dictate your actions. Elena found peace in the hospital. Ravi found calm during exams. The mindful mother found connection. Thomas found leadership strength, all through the simple act of awareness carried by breath. Their stories reveal a truth that applies to every life. The present moment holds power. When you live within it consciously, you reclaim authority over your emotional world. As you move forward, begin noticing your breath throughout the day. Notice it when you wake, when you walk, when you speak, when you face challenge. Let it remind you to pause, to observe, to choose. Over time, mindfulness becomes natural and reactions lose their intensity. The fire within still burns, but it no longer rages uncontrollably. It becomes a steady flame, guided by awareness, sustained by breath, and directed by wisdom. Chapter 5. The Strength of Silence. In a world that rewards loud voices, quick replies, and instant opinions, silence is often misunderstood. Many see silence as weakness, hesitation, or lack of confidence. Yet true silence is strength. It is controlled power. It is the discipline to hold your words when emotions demand expression.
It is the ability to remain steady when others expect reaction. Silence is not emptiness, it is presence without noise. It is awareness without impulsiveness. It is mastery over the urge to prove, defend, or attack. Words once spoken cannot be retrieved. They travel beyond intention and shape relationships, reputations, and futures. Many conflicts are born not from events themselves, but from uncontrolled speech fueled by emotion. A single angry sentence can damage years of trust. A sarcastic comment can wound deeply. A defensive reply can escalate minor disagreement into lasting division. Silence offers protection. It creates space for wisdom to emerge before words are released. Consider the story of Niraj, a young lawyer known for his intelligence and sharp arguments. In court, he was quick, confident, and persuasive. Yet outside the courtroom, his impulsive speech often created tension with colleagues. When criticized, he would respond immediately, defending his position, sometimes aggressively. One day during a meeting, a senior partner publicly questioned his approach. Niraj felt embarrassment and anger rise within him. His mind prepared a sharp rebuttal, ready to prove his superiority. But something inside urged him to remain silent. He took a slow breath and listened fully, without interruption. The room became still. His silence shifted the atmosphere. Instead of conflict, the senior partner elaborated, offering constructive suggestions. After the meeting, several colleagues appreciated Niraj's calm response. His silence communicated maturity and strength more powerfully than any argument could.
Silence allows emotion to settle like dust in still air. When you react immediately, words are shaped by intensity, not clarity. But when you remain silent, even for a few moments, emotions soften and perspective widens. A husband returning home after a long day once faced criticism from his spouse about unfinished responsibilities. Exhausted and irritated, he felt ready to argue and justify himself. Instead, he chose silence. He listened without interruption, allowing her concerns to be expressed fully. After a few minutes, the tension reduced. She felt heard and understood. When he finally spoke, his words were calm and solution-focused. That evening could have turned into conflict, but silence preserved peace. Silence is also strength in the face of insult. When someone attempts to provoke you, they often expect reaction. They expect anger, defense, or retaliation. Silence denies them that power. It reflects self-control and confidence. A school student named Aisha was teased by classmates for her quiet nature. Instead of responding with anger, she chose silence and composure. Over time, her steady demeanor earned respect. Her silence communicated that she did not require approval or validation from others. She remained centered within herself. There is deep power in silent observation. During conversation, many people listen only to respond. They wait impatiently for their turn to speak, missing the true meaning behind words. But when you practice intentional silence, you hear beyond language. You notice tone, body language, and underlying emotion. A manager practicing silence during team discussions discovered insights previously overlooked. Employees revealed creative ideas and honest feedback because they felt space to express themselves. Silence created trust and openness. Silence also strengthens inner discipline. When anger surges, the urge to speak is strong. It feels relieving to release frustration through words. Yet this relief is temporary and often followed by regret. Choosing silence requires courage. It requires endurance. It requires faith that not every emotion deserves expression. Through silence, you build resilience. The mind learns that it does not have to obey every impulse. The heart learns patience.
There was a woman named Kavita who struggled in family gatherings where opinions often clashed. Discussions would quickly become heated and voices raised. In the past, she engaged in every argument, determined to defend her perspective, leaving gatherings drained and resentful. One evening, she decided to experiment with silence. When controversial topics arose, she listened attentively, but refrained from debate. She smiled gently and offered minimal response. Internally, she observed her emotions rise and fall like waves. To her surprise, the discussions ended without escalating, and she returned home peaceful rather than exhausted. Silence preserved her energy and dignity. Silence does not mean avoidance of necessary conversation. It means choosing the right moment and mindset to speak. Sometimes silence is temporary, allowing emotions to cool before addressing issues thoughtfully. It is the difference between speaking to hurt and speaking to heal. It is the discipline to ensure that words align with intention rather than impulse. Nature itself demonstrates the strength of silence. Mountains stand unmoved by storms. Oceans contain depth beyond visible waves. The night sky holds vast stillness despite the movement of stars. In silence, there is stability and depth. In silence, there is reflection and understanding. When you cultivate inner silence, external chaos loses its grip. Neeraj discovered professional respect. Aisha discovered self-confidence. Kavita discovered peace. The husband discovered harmony, all through the practice of silence. Their experiences reveal that silence is not passive, it is active self-control. It is conscious restraint. It is deliberate wisdom. As you journey toward emotional mastery, begin to value silence. Notice the urge to respond instantly and gently resist it. Allow moments of quiet before speaking. Let emotions settle. Let understanding form. Words spoken from calm awareness carry strength and clarity. Words spoken from reaction carry tension and regret. The power of not reacting grows deeper through silence. It transforms conversations, relationships, and inner life. Silence is your shield and your strength. It protects you from unnecessary conflict and guides you toward thoughtful action. In the quiet space where reaction once lived, wisdom now emerges, and within that wisdom, you discover unshakable control over your emotional world.
Chapter 6. Rewriting the Story. Every reaction begins with a story. The mind is a storyteller, constantly interpreting events, assigning meaning, creating narratives about what is happening and why. When someone ignores your message, the story may become, "I am not important." When a colleague receives praise, the story may become, "I am not good enough." When plans fail, the story may become, "I always lose." These stories arise quickly, often unconsciously, and emotions follow them like shadows. If the story is negative, the emotion becomes heavy. If the story is empowering, the emotion becomes constructive. The power of not reacting depends on recognizing that you can rewrite the story. Events in life are neutral until meaning is attached to them. Two people can experience the same situation and respond completely differently because their internal stories differ. A missed opportunity can be seen as rejection or redirection. A criticism can be seen as insult or improvement. A delay can be seen as inconvenience or preparation. The story you choose shapes your emotional response, and your emotional response shapes your actions. Consider the story of Mira, an artist who submitted her paintings to a prestigious gallery. After weeks of waiting, she received a brief email stating that her work was not selected. Immediately, her mind created a painful narrative. "They do not value my talent. I am not skilled enough. I will never succeed."
Sadness and self-doubt overwhelmed her. She considered giving up painting entirely. That evening, instead of reacting impulsively, she paused and questioned the story. Was rejection proof of failure, or was it part of growth? She researched successful artists and discovered that many faced repeated rejection before recognition. She rewrote her narrative. This is feedback. This is redirection. This is preparation. Her emotions shifted from despair to determination. She refined her craft, applied to new galleries, and eventually achieved recognition. The event did not change. The story did.
Stories are powerful because they feel true. They arise automatically based on past experiences, fears, and beliefs. If you were once betrayed, you may create stories of distrust in new relationships. If you were criticized harshly as a child, you may create stories of inadequacy in adulthood. These narratives become filters through which you interpret the world. When you do not examine them, you react based on assumption rather than reality. Rewriting the story requires awareness, courage, and honesty. A man named Rohan often felt disrespected during meetings when others interrupted him. His story was, "They do not respect me. I must assert dominance to be heard." His reaction was aggressive speech and visible frustration, which only reinforced tension. One day, he decided to observe his interpretation more carefully. He realized that interruptions happened to everyone and were not personal attacks. He rewrote the story. They are excited about the discussion. I can calmly reclaim my space. Instead of reacting harshly, he waited patiently and then continued speaking, firmly but respectfully. Over time, colleagues responded positively. His revised story changed his emotional tone and his outcomes. Rewriting the story does not mean denying pain or pretending challenges do not exist. It means choosing interpretation wisely. It means asking, is there another way to see this? What else could this mean? Could this difficulty be shaping resilience? Could this setback be guiding me somewhere better? When you shift interpretation, you shift emotion. When you shift emotion, you shift behavior. A young athlete named Tara lost an important competition. She had trained for months, sacrificing comfort and leisure. After the loss, her initial story was, "I am a failure. I disappointed everyone." Shame and frustration flooded her. She withdrew from her team, considering quitting the sport. Her coach encouraged her to reflect differently. He asked, "What did you learn? How did you grow?" Tara realized that the competition revealed areas for improvement and strengthened her discipline. She rewrote the story, "This loss is training for future victory." Her motivation returned stronger than before. Months later, she achieved a major win that would not have been possible without the lessons of defeat.
Your internal narrative also influences relationships. If your partner forgets an anniversary, you may create the story, "They do not care about me." Anger follows, accusation follows, conflict. Yet another story could be, "They are overwhelmed or distracted. Let me communicate my feelings calmly." The second story produces dialogue rather than argument. The difference lies not in the event, but in interpretation. The mind will always create stories. That is its nature. But you are not required to accept the first version offered. You have the authority to question, edit, and rewrite. You can transform victim narratives into growth narratives. You can transform scarcity narratives into abundance narratives. You can transform fear narratives into courage narratives. There was a woman named Sophia who moved to a new city, leaving behind friends and familiarity. She initially told herself, "I am alone here. No one understands me. This place is cold." Her loneliness intensified. She then decided to shift perspective. This is a new beginning. I have space to reinvent myself. I can build fresh connections. With this new narrative, she joined community groups, explored the city, and approached people with openness.
Within a year, she felt at home. Her emotional state followed the story she chose. Rewriting the story requires practice. When emotion arises, ask yourself, what story am I telling about this situation? Is it completely accurate? Is there evidence supporting a different perspective? This simple reflection interrupts automatic reaction and replaces it with conscious choice. Over time, you train your mind to seek constructive meaning rather than destructive assumption. Mira found artistic success. Rohan found respect. Tara found victory. Sophia found belonging. Their lives changed because their stories changed. The power of not reacting lies partly in this ability to pause and revise interpretation before emotion dictates action.
You are the author of your internal world. Circumstances provide raw material, but meaning is crafted by you. When you understand this truth, you reclaim immense power. No longer controlled by first impressions or emotional impulses, you become deliberate, thoughtful, and resilient. You begin to see challenges as chapters, not conclusions. Setbacks as lessons, not identities. As you continue this journey, notice the narratives forming in your mind, especially in moments of tension, disappointment, or conflict. Pause and ask whether the story empowers you or limits you. Then choose to rewrite it in a way that strengthens clarity, growth, and peace. In doing so, you master not only your reactions, but the very framework through which you experience life. Chapter 7. Transforming Conflict into Growth. Conflict is a natural part of human life. Wherever there are differences in opinion, values, expectations, or desires, there will be tension. Many people fear conflict because they associate it with anger, separation, and damage. Yet conflict itself is not destructive. Uncontrolled reaction within conflict is what creates harm. When approached with awareness, patience, and emotional discipline, conflict becomes a powerful teacher. It reveals hidden expectations, unspoken fears, and unmet needs. It exposes weaknesses in communication and invites growth in understanding. The power of not reacting is tested most strongly in moments of disagreement. When voices rise and emotions intensify, the instinct to defend, attack, or withdraw becomes powerful. In these moments, you're presented with a choice. You can react impulsively and escalate the situation, or you can pause, observe, and transform conflict into opportunity. Consider the story of Vikram and Ananya, a married couple balancing demanding careers and family responsibilities. Small disagreements about finances, household tasks, and time management gradually turned into heated arguments. Each conflict followed the same pattern: accusation, defense, raised voices, and emotional distance. Both felt unheard and misunderstood. One evening, during another argument, Vikram remembered his commitment to practicing non-reaction. Instead of interrupting, he allowed Ananya to express her frustration fully. He noticed his urge to defend himself, but chose silence and steady breathing. When she finished speaking, he calmly shared his perspective without blame. The tone of the conversation shifted. For the first time, they felt they were discussing a problem together rather than fighting against each other. Over time, this approach transformed their relationship. Conflict became a space for collaboration rather than competition. Conflict often triggers ego. The ego seeks to be right, to win, to protect identity. When someone challenges your opinion, it can feel like a personal attack. The instinct is to defend at all costs. But when you pause and observe, you realize that disagreement does not diminish your worth. It simply reflects diversity of perspective.
A business leader named Farhan experienced frequent tension with a creative team member who proposed unconventional ideas. Farhan initially reacted with dismissal, believing his authority was being questioned. Meetings became strained and productivity declined. One day, he chose a different approach. Instead of reacting, he asked open questions, seeking to understand the reasoning behind the ideas. He listened without judgment. To his surprise, the unconventional ideas led to innovative solutions that improved company performance. By controlling his reaction, Farhan transformed conflict into progress. Conflict also reveals emotional triggers. When a comment hurts deeply, it often connects to unresolved insecurity. A young woman named Priya felt intense anger whenever her sister criticized her life choices. Their conversations frequently ended in silence and resentment. During one heated exchange, Priya paused and reflected. She realized that her anger was not solely about the criticism, but about her own doubts. She feared she might have made mistakes, and her sister's words amplified that fear. Instead of reacting defensively, she expressed her vulnerability honestly. The conversation shifted from argument to understanding. Their bond strengthened because conflict uncovered deeper truth. Transforming conflict into growth requires three essential qualities: patience, empathy, and self-awareness. Patience allows emotions to cool. Empathy allows you to see beyond your own perspective. Self-awareness allows you to recognize your triggers. Without these qualities, conflict becomes a battlefield. With them, it becomes a classroom. A teacher named Samuel faced constant disruption from a student who challenged authority. Instead of reacting with punishment, he chose curiosity. He observed the student's behavior calmly and later spoke privately, seeking to understand the root cause. He discovered that the student struggled with difficulties at home and used defiance as a shield. Samuel's response changed from frustration to guidance. Over time, the student improved academically and emotionally. What began as conflict became mentorship. Workplaces, families, friendships, and communities all experience disagreement. The difference between breakdown and breakthrough lies in emotional control. Reacting immediately intensifies misunderstanding. Listening thoughtfully reduces it. Raising your voice invites resistance. Lowering your tone invites dialogue. The power of not reacting creates space where solutions can emerge. There was a community leader named Amina who mediated disputes between neighbors in her town. When arguments erupted, she remained composed, allowing each person to speak fully without interruption. Her calm presence diffused tension. People felt heard rather than attacked. Because she did not react emotionally, she could guide others toward compromise. Her strength lay not in authority, but in composure. Conflict is not an obstacle to peace. It is a pathway to deeper connection when managed wisely. It exposes areas where communication must improve and understanding must expand. Each disagreement carries within it the potential for growth. If approached with humility and reflection, it can strengthen trust rather than weaken it. Vikram and Ananya strengthened their marriage. Farhan enhanced innovation. Priya deepened family bonds. Samuel transformed rebellion into growth. Amina fostered harmony, all by mastering their reactions during conflict. Their stories demonstrate that emotional discipline converts tension into transformation. As you encounter conflict in your own life, remember that the initial surge of emotion does not require immediate action. Pause, listen, reflect, choose words carefully, seek understanding rather than victory.
When you practice this consistently, conflict loses its destructive edge. It becomes a mirror, revealing opportunities for maturity, compassion, and wisdom.
The power of not reacting does not eliminate disagreement. It elevates it. It transforms confrontation into conversation and opposition into cooperation. Through emotional mastery, you discover that conflict handled with calm awareness becomes one of the greatest catalysts for personal and relational growth. Chapter 8: Emotional Mastery in Relationships. Relationships are the mirrors of our inner world. They reflect our strengths, our fears, our insecurities, and our capacity for love. In solitude, it is easy to believe we are calm, patient, and emotionally balanced. Yet in close relationships, hidden triggers surface. A single word can ignite anger. A small misunderstanding can awaken insecurity. A delayed response can create doubt. This is why relationships are the greatest training ground for mastering the power of not reacting. When two people connect deeply, their emotional worlds intertwine. Expectations form, attachments grow, and vulnerability increases. The deeper the connection, the stronger the emotional reactions can become. Without awareness, relationships can turn into cycles of reaction. Blame leads to defense. Defense leads to distance. Distance leads to resentment. But when even one person practices emotional control, the cycle can be transformed into understanding, growth, and harmony. Consider the story of Arjun and Meenal, who had been close friends for years. Their bond was built on trust, laughter, and shared dreams. One day, Meenal forgot to inform Arjun about an important event where their mutual friends gathered. Arjun felt hurt and excluded. His mind quickly created a story. She does not value me anymore. Perhaps I am not important. Anger and disappointment rose within him. He was ready to send a long message expressing his frustration. But before reacting, he paused. He observed his emotions and asked himself what he truly felt. Beneath anger was sadness, and beneath sadness was fear of losing connection. Instead of accusing her, he chose honesty. He expressed that he felt left out and wished to understand what happened. Meenal apologized, explaining it was an oversight, not intentional neglect. The friendship deepened because Arjun chose vulnerability over reaction.
Romantic relationships especially demand emotional mastery. Love intensifies feelings and magnifies insecurities. A partner coming home late without notice can trigger suspicion. A simple disagreement about daily routines can escalate into argument. When reaction replaces reflection, minor issues become major conflicts. But when awareness replaces impulse, intimacy grows stronger. There was a woman named Kavya who often reacted sharply when her partner Rohit forgot small details, such as anniversaries or shared plans. Her reactions were rooted not in the forgotten event, but in a deeper fear of being unappreciated. One evening, instead of reacting with criticism, she paused and reflected. She realized that Rohit expressed care in different ways, through acts of service and quiet support rather than grand gestures. She calmly communicated her feelings without accusation. Rohit listened and explained his perspective. They reached understanding and adjusted their expectations. Emotional mastery turned potential resentment into mutual growth. Family relationships also test emotional control. Parents may feel frustration toward children. Children may feel misunderstood by parents. Generational differences can create tension. When reactions dominate, communication gaps widen. But when one chooses patience, connection strengthens. A father named Imran struggled with his teenage daughter who often challenged his rules. He felt disrespected and reacted with strict discipline, creating emotional distance. One day, he decided to approach the situation differently.
Instead of reacting to her tone, he listened to her concerns. He realized that she sought independence and trust rather than rebellion. He adjusted his approach, allowing her space while maintaining guidance. Their relationship transformed because he chose understanding over authority. Friendships, too, require emotional awareness. A casual comment can unintentionally hurt. Without communication, assumptions grow silently. A young professional named Sneha felt ignored when her friend repeatedly canceled plans. She interpreted it as lack of interest and withdrew emotionally. Instead of reacting coldly, she asked openly if something was wrong. Her friend revealed she was facing personal challenges and had withdrawn unintentionally. Compassion replaced resentment, and their bond strengthened.
Emotional mastery in relationships requires three powerful qualities: self-awareness, empathy, and communication. Self-awareness allows you to recognize your triggers. Empathy allows you to see the other person's perspective. Communication allows honest expression without blame. When these qualities combine, relationships flourish. Reactions often arise from past wounds. If someone once betrayed you, you may react strongly to minor signs of distance. If you experienced neglect, you may react intensely to perceived rejection. Recognizing these patterns allows healing rather than repetition. You begin to separate past pain from present reality. There was a couple named Daniel and Sophia who often argued about finances. Each discussion triggered anxiety rooted in childhood experiences. Daniel grew up in scarcity, while Sophia grew up in stability. Their reactions were shaped by history. Once they understood these backgrounds, they approached conversations with compassion rather than confrontation. Financial planning became teamwork instead of tension. Emotional mastery does not mean suppressing feelings. It means expressing them with clarity and calmness. It means saying, "I feel hurt," rather than "you always hurt me." It means listening fully rather than preparing counterarguments. It means choosing connection over ego. Healthy relationships are not built on absence of disagreement. They are built on respectful dialogue. Trust grows when reactions decrease. Safety grows when judgment fades. Love grows when understanding expands. The power of not reacting creates emotional safety where honesty can thrive.
Arjun strengthened friendship. Kavya deepened partnership. Imran rebuilt fatherhood. Sneha preserved connection. Daniel and Sophia found harmony. Each transformation began with one decision to pause, observe, and respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively. As you reflect on your own relationships, consider where reactions have created distance. Consider where patience could create closeness. Each moment offers opportunity to respond with maturity, compassion, and strength. Emotional mastery in relationships does not happen overnight. It develops through consistent awareness and practice. When you choose not to react, you protect what matters most. You nurture trust. You cultivate respect. You deepen love. Relationships become not battlegrounds of emotion, but gardens of growth. Through calm awareness and intentional response, you create bonds that are resilient, fulfilling, and deeply meaningful. Chapter 9. The Inner Calm That Radiates. There is a presence that cannot be shaken by noise, criticism, delay, or chaos. It is not loud, and it does not demand attention, yet it influences every room it enters. This presence is inner calm. When you master the art of not reacting, you cultivate a stillness within that begins to radiate outward. People may not immediately understand why they feel comfortable around you, yet they sense stability, they sense safety, they sense strength. Inner calm is not the absence of problems. It is the ability to remain centered despite them. Storms may rage outside, yet the foundation remains firm. A person who reacts to every challenge becomes like a leaf in the wind, moving wherever circumstances push. But a person rooted in calm stands like a tree, grounded, steady, unshaken. This steadiness inspires trust and confidence in others. Consider the story of Dr. Mehta, a senior physician in a busy emergency unit. Every day he faced urgent decisions, anxious families, and unexpected complications. Younger doctors often panicked under pressure, reacting with visible stress, which sometimes intensified confusion. Dr. Mehta, however, moved with quiet focus. When complications arose, he spoke slowly, gave clear instructions, and maintained steady breathing. His calm presence stabilized the entire team. Nurses felt reassured, patients felt safe. Junior doctors learned confidence simply by observing him. His inner control radiated outward, influencing everyone around him.
Calmness is contagious, just as panic is contagious. When one person raises their voice, tension spreads quickly. But when one person remains composed, others begin to settle unconsciously. A school principal named Anita faced a crisis when two groups of students clashed aggressively. Teachers rushed in with frustration and loud commands, escalating the situation. Anita walked into the courtyard without shouting. She stood firm and silent until attention shifted toward her. She spoke with measured tone, asking each side to step back and breathe. Her composure gradually softened the intensity. Within minutes, what could have become violence transformed into dialogue. Her inner calm became the anchor for hundreds of students. Inner calm also influences families. A mother who remains patient during household stress teaches emotional regulation without words. A father who handles financial difficulty with steady confidence instills resilience in children. They learn not from lectures but from observation. When children see adults reacting impulsively, they mirror that behavior. When they see adults pausing, breathing, and responding thoughtfully, they adopt the same discipline. There was a young entrepreneur named Arnav whose startup faced sudden financial setback. Investors withdrew unexpectedly, and employees feared instability. Panic could have easily spread through the company. Arnav felt anxiety, but he did not allow it to dictate his behavior. He gathered his team, spoke honestly about the challenge, and expressed belief in their collective ability to adapt. His calm clarity prevented despair. Instead of quitting, employees collaborated creatively to find solutions. Within months, the company stabilized. Arnav's inner steadiness preserved morale and unity. Inner calm does not mean emotionless detachment. It means emotional balance. Joy is experienced deeply without becoming reckless. Sadness is acknowledged without becoming hopeless. Anger is recognized without becoming destructive. The calm individual feels everything, yet is controlled by nothing. This balanced state creates influence because it reflects maturity and wisdom.
A community volunteer named Fatima worked in areas affected by natural disaster. Families had lost homes and hope. Emotions were intense, ranging from grief to frustration. Fatima did not deny their pain, nor react to their anger defensively. She listened attentively, offered support, and maintained gentle composure. Her presence reassured people that recovery was possible. Through her steady energy, she became a source of hope. Calmness gave her credibility more than any formal authority could. When you cultivate inner calm, you also protect your physical and mental health. Chronic reaction drains energy, increases stress, and weakens clarity. But calm awareness conserves strength. It allows better decision-making,
It enhances focus and resilience. Over time, you become less vulnerable to emotional exhaustion because you are not constantly battling every minor disturbance. Inner calm radiates through body language, tone, and expression. Even without speaking, others notice the steadiness in your eyes, the patience in your posture, the control in your gestures. This silent communication influences environments, at work, at home, and in community spaces. People begin to seek your presence during difficulty because they associate you with clarity rather than chaos. Dr. Mehta stabilized emergencies. Anita restored order. Arnav preserved leadership. Fatima inspired hope. Each example reveals that mastering your internal world transforms your external impact. The power of not reacting extends far beyond personal peace. It becomes a gift to others. As you continue practicing awareness, pause, and intentional response, notice how your energy shifts. Notice how interactions change. Notice how people respond differently to your calm presence. You will realize that emotional mastery is not only self-protection, it is service. It creates safe spaces where others can think clearly, speak honestly, and act wisely.
The inner calm you build becomes a light that guides through uncertainty. It strengthens families, empowers teams, and comforts communities. It reflects deep confidence, rooted not in control over circumstances, but in control over self. When you choose not to react impulsively, you cultivate this calm. When you breathe before speaking, you strengthen it. When you observe before judging, you deepen it. Gradually, it becomes your natural state. And as it radiates outward, it shapes a world that is more patient, understanding, and resilient. The journey of mastering emotions leads here, to a place where calm is not forced but embodied, where strength is quiet yet powerful, where presence itself becomes influence. This is the true reward of emotional control, an inner peace so steady that it transforms not only your life, but the lives of those around you. Chapter 10. Becoming Unshakable. There comes a point in the journey of emotional mastery where control is no longer forced. It becomes natural, effortless, and deeply rooted. The practice of pausing, observing, breathing, staying silent, rewriting stories, and transforming conflict slowly shapes a new identity. You are no longer a person trying not to react. You become a person who is unshakable. Stability becomes your default response. Clarity becomes your habit. Strength becomes your presence. To become unshakable does not mean life stops testing you. Challenges continue, people misunderstand, opportunities slip away, plans fail, criticism appears, unexpected change arrives. The difference is not in what happens, the difference is in who you become in response to what happens. An unshakable person bends without breaking, listens without collapsing, feels without losing control. Consider the story of Nikhil, who built his career over many years with dedication and integrity. Suddenly, due to organizational restructuring, he lost his position. The news shocked colleagues and friends. Many expected him to react with anger, blame, or despair. He felt disappointment and uncertainty, yet he did not allow those emotions to define his next step. He gave himself time to process quietly. He reflected on his strengths and possibilities. Instead of reacting publicly or burning bridges, he expressed gratitude for the experience and moved forward with dignity. Within months, he discovered a new opportunity, more aligned with his values. His calm resilience during crisis strengthened his reputation and self-respect. Being unshakable also means standing firm in your values without being disturbed by external opinions.
A young writer named Artie shared her work online and received both praise and harsh criticism. Earlier in her journey, negative comments would have consumed her thoughts, causing self-doubt and emotional turmoil. Through practice of non-reaction, she learned to see feedback as information, not identity. She accepted constructive suggestions and ignored unnecessary hostility. Her creativity flourished because she was no longer controlled by approval or rejection. An unshakable person does not seek to control others. They focus on mastering themselves. When someone attempts to provoke, insult, or manipulate, they remain centered. They respond thoughtfully or choose silence. They understand that reacting impulsively gives power away. Maintaining composure keeps power within. There was a leader named Omar, responsible for guiding a large team through uncertain economic times. Rumors spread quickly, creating fear among employees. Some demanded immediate answers, others expressed frustration publicly. Omar chose transparency and calm communication. He acknowledged uncertainty without dramatizing it. He listened patiently to concerns and provided steady direction. His emotional stability prevented panic from spreading. Even those who disagreed respected his composure because it reflected confidence grounded in self-control.
Becoming unshakable requires daily discipline. It is built in small moments when you choose patience over anger, when you choose listening over interruption, when you choose reflection over assumption. Each choice strengthens the foundation. Over time, emotional storms lose their intensity because they find no resistance to ignite. An unshakable person also understands impermanence. Joy passes, pain passes, success passes, failure passes. Knowing this creates balance. During success, they remain humble. During difficulty, they remain hopeful. They are not overly elevated by praise, nor deeply crushed by criticism. Their identity is rooted within, not in external circumstances. A woman named Lena faced repeated delays in achieving her long-term goals. Each setback once triggered frustration and self-criticism. Through growth, she learned to trust timing. She used obstacles as lessons rather than evidence of inadequacy. Her steady persistence eventually led to fulfillment of her ambitions. The journey shaped her resilience more than the achievement itself. When you become unshakable, you influence others silently. People observe your steadiness and feel inspired to cultivate their own. Families feel secure in your presence. Teams perform confidently under your leadership. Friends seek your guidance during confusion. Your calm becomes a foundation others can lean on. The power of not reacting ultimately leads to freedom. Freedom from emotional slavery. Freedom from impulsive regret. Freedom from unnecessary conflict. You are no longer controlled by every comment, every delay, every challenge. You choose your response with awareness and strength.
Nikhil transformed loss into opportunity. Artie protected creativity. Omar guided through uncertainty. Lena turned delay into discipline. Their lives illustrate that being unshakable is not about perfection, it is about persistence in emotional awareness. As you reach this stage of understanding, remember that mastery is continuous. Life will continue offering lessons. Each moment remains an opportunity to practice pause, presence, and intentional response. The journey never truly ends, but it becomes easier because calmness becomes natural. Within you now stands a stronger self, a self that understands emotions, yet is not ruled by them. A self that listens deeply, speaks wisely, and acts deliberately. A self that remains grounded regardless of external turbulence. This is the ultimate transformation. The fire within no longer burns uncontrollably, it illuminates. The breath no longer struggles, it steadies. The mind no longer reacts blindly, it observes and chooses. To become unshakable is to embody the true power of not reacting. It is to live with clarity, courage, and unwavering inner peace. And from this place, you move through the world not as a victim of circumstance, but as a master of your emotional destiny.
Conclusion. The journey through emotional mastery is not about becoming emotionless. It is about becoming aware. It is about discovering that within every surge of anger, every wave of fear, every spark of jealousy, and every shadow of doubt, there exists a choice. Throughout this path, you have seen how understanding emotions weakens their control, how pausing creates power, how silence protects dignity, how rewriting your internal story transforms experience, how conflict becomes growth, how relationships deepen through awareness, how inner calm radiates outward, and how becoming unshakable changes not only your life, but the lives of those around you. The power of not reacting is not dramatic, it is quiet. It does not shout for attention. It builds strength slowly through daily decisions. It is present in the breath you take before responding. It is present in the silence you hold instead of speaking in anger. It is present in the compassion you choose when misunderstanding arises. It is present in the steady posture you maintain when life attempts to shake your balance. There will always be triggers. There will always be moments when emotions rise unexpectedly. That is part of being human. Mastery does not mean those moments disappear. It means you meet them differently. Instead of becoming the storm, you become the sky. Instead of being carried by the fire, you guide its direction. Instead of surrendering to impulse, you stand in awareness. Imagine your life months and years from now shaped by this practice. Imagine responding to criticism with clarity instead of defensiveness. Imagine navigating loss with resilience instead of despair. Imagine leading your family, your workplace, or your community with calm strength. Imagine the freedom of no longer replaying arguments in your mind or regretting words spoken in haste. This is not fantasy. It is the natural outcome of disciplined awareness.
The power of not reacting is the power of freedom. Freedom from regret, freedom from unnecessary suffering, freedom from being controlled by circumstances, freedom to choose who you become in every situation. This freedom is the highest form of strength. As you step forward into your life, carry this awareness with you. Let your calm inspire others. Let your restraint create peace. Let your clarity guide decisions. Let your emotional mastery become your silent signature. You are not here to be ruled by every passing emotion. You are here to lead your inner world with wisdom. You are here to move with intention rather than impulse. You are here to stand firm when winds rise and to shine steadily when darkness appears. The journey continues beyond these pages, but now you walk it equipped with understanding, discipline, and courage. The fire within you is no longer destructive, it is directed. The breath within you is no longer unnoticed, it is powerful. The mind within you is no longer reactive, it is conscious. And in this consciousness lies your greatest strength, the enduring, unshakable, life-changing power of not reacting. The end. The power of not reacting is the power of freedom. Freedom from regret, freedom from unnecessary suffering, freedom from being controlled by circumstances, freedom to choose who you become in every situation. This freedom is the highest form of strength. As you step forward into your life, carry this awareness with you.
Let your calm inspire others. Let your restraint create peace. Let your clarity guide decisions. Let your emotional mastery become your silent signature. You are not here to be ruled by every passing emotion. You are here to lead your inner world with wisdom. You are here to move with intention rather than impulse. You are here to stand firm when winds rise and to shine steadily when darkness appears. The journey continues beyond these pages, but now you walk it equipped with understanding, discipline, and courage. The fire within you is no longer destructive, it is directed. The breath within you is no longer unnoticed, it is powerful. The mind within you is no longer reactive, it is conscious. And in this consciousness lies your greatest strength, the enduring, unshakable, life-changing power of not reacting. The end.
Kindly subscribe to my channel.